Welcome back to another video. My name is Kyle and I suck at budgeting. We have another Beyond the Budget video for you today. This is number 3, I think.
I believe so.
And we're talking about debt management. We got Charlotte here again. And I'm going to hand it off to her like usual because I don't know what we're doing.
Well, so yes, today we're talking about debt management, debt payoff, just thoughts on debt in general. So, as usual, we start with
a quote.
A quote. So, unfortunately, this quote I do not have a name for. I looked it up and it assigned it to something like Reader's Digest or the Saturday Evening Post or something like that. So, it is, when debt stands at the door, opportunity does not get a chance to knock. So the reason I chose that quote is because there are a lot of stories that I have heard and read of people saying that by being in debt, it is preventing them from doing some of the other things that they would like to do. Some people say that their debt is preventing them from being able to buy a home. Some people put off having children because they have debt. There's lots of different reasons why debt can impede your ability to do some of the other things that you would like to do in life. So, if we're talking about debt, compared to last time we got together, we were talking about emergency funds, and I had said at the time that almost all of the financial gurus out there agreed on having some type of funds for emergencies. Well, I will tell you that is not the case with debt. There is huge disagreement in the financial services planning industry about how to handle debt. And we are not here to tell you how to handle your debt. Personal finance is personal, so you get to decide. We're just going to try to present all the different options to you. So on one end of the spectrum, we have Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey is so anti-debt. That is what he is known for. In his 7 baby steps, paying off debt is step number 2. Right after saving a $1,000 emergency fund. And he feels that everybody should get out of debt and stay out of debt, and except for a mortgage, which he even isn't that excited about mortgages, but except for a mortgage, he thinks people should live debt-free. So, in all transparency, that's the way that my husband and I proceeded. We went through Dave Ramsey's program. We really liked his philosophy on that. We got out of debt back in 2012, 2013, and have stayed debt-free since. More middle of the road, an example would be the Money Guys. So the Money Guys are great. They have a podcast and a YouTube channel, and they take more of a moderate approach to debt. They feel that there's good debt and there's bad debt, and they kind of differentiate between high interest debt and low interest debt. So they have a 9-step program, and step 3 of their program is to pay off your high interest debt, and they don't have you pay off your low interest debt until step 9, complete last choice.
That's very interesting.
Now, you might say, what constitutes high interest debt and low interest debt? Well, that's like a moving target because it's based on what else is happening. So a few years ago, when interest rates that you could get 5.5% on high yield savings accounts, well, if you had a debt that was 3.9%, well, that would be considered low interest because you could make more money by having your money stay in the savings account than by paying it off.
Got it.
But as interest rates change, that adjusts. But usually it's somewhere around the 5%. Over that, it's considered high. Under that, it's considered low. Then, all the way on the other other end of the spectrum, you have Robert Kiyosaki. So he also agrees that there's good debt and there's bad debt, but he is all about the leverage. So using other people's money. So instead of tying up your own money to pay for things, he thinks that people should use their own money to invest and grow for them, and then take out debt and use that to get ahead. So we have that whole spectrum there, and you'll need to kind of figure out where you fit on that spectrum. But the one thing I will tell you is that most of them agree that if you are in credit card debt, that is usually a bad thing. When they're talking about good debt, usually they mean student loans, car debt perhaps, mortgages, those kind of things. But in general, if you have credit card debt, most of the gurus do agree, especially if you are carrying debt. So not like necessarily that you're putting money on a credit card and paying it off. It's that if you are carrying debt and usually incurring interest on it.
Is it more that buying things that would depreciate is bad debt and things that would grow? So like you consider education as something that would cause you to grow. House would call, or real estate would generally grows.
Right.
Would that be considered good debt? While, buying a car would not be good debt because it depreciates so quickly.
I think probably pretty solidly that's how it works. The only time I would disagree with you is just like we talked about in a previous episode when you had your car accident and you had to have a car to get to work.
Okay.
So I think that they would put that in the category, some of them would put that in the category of good debt, just because it's something that you need to do your job.
Right. And I think there's a way to make it bad debt, and I don't think I made it that, because I could have bought a brand new car and I didn't.
Right.
So, okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So, if you are in credit card debt, they mostly recommend that you stop taking on any new credit card debt and you try to tackle the debt that you have. Some people are really all about the points. They're all about the points. They're all about the travel rewards. I never really got into that game.
Which is shocking because you're a couponer. I thought for sure you'd get into that game. You started with the bank balance thing for a while.
I have done. I've done some bank rewards for sure. And I will say that the credit card point thing is very enticing to me. But I think
that's the point.
Yes. I think like you, I've made some poor choices with credit cards in the past. I feel like now that I'm fully in the YNAB situation and embracing that I could handle them much better.
Yep.
But I just have decided not to go down that route. But what happens is there's some people I know who are so excited about the travel rewards and the points that they're earning, but yet they're then turning around and paying interest on those credit card balances. And at that point, you're negating really the benefit of that. So if you are a credit card points and travel reward person, rule number one is don't carry a balance on your credit card. I think the worst credit cards out there are the store cards. So somebody who's like, okay, well, I'm going to go to
Best Buy and buy a TV.
Yes. And I'm going to get it 6 months with no interest. And if you are very diligent and you pay it off, those things work great. But they are set up to make you fail. They have lots of trickiness in there about when payments are due. And if you don't pay it off within that 6-month period, you are backdated interest at 29% back to the beginning of it. Very dangerous. So something to think about. I have gotten stuck in some of those. Another thing about credit cards is that it is something that you can negotiate your rate on sometimes. So not all the time, but every once in a while you can call and try to get them to put the rate down. Yep. Anyway, so when we're talking about debt then, if you are of the opinion that you have some debt that you would like to try to get rid of, there are two major options that you have. One is called the debt snowball method, and one is called the debt avalanche method. So they both end up with the same result, which is paying off all your debt, but they just approach it in slightly different ways.
Yep.
So the snowball method it goes by balance. So it takes your smallest balance and you tackle that one first. Then you, that regardless of interest rates.
Correct.
So smallest balance regardless of interest rates. Whereas the debt avalanche one goes by highest interest rate regardless of balance. And then each of them you work on and you focus on one, putting some extra money on one debt at a time to try to knock it out.
And a lot of you follow Just Finance because a lot of we overlap in a lot of stuff, and that's what Kaylee's going through right now with her student loan payments. So she's got 20-something student loans. So she started with going with the smallest one first. Now she's going, oh, maybe I'll go with the biggest one. So that's kind of where she's at. She's looking at flipping, I think, to the avalanche method now. So, but yeah, she might be going back. I don't know. So no, she started with avalanche. Now she's going to snowball. I don't know.
And it's one of those things where you don't have to make one decision and stick with it.
Right.
You can adjust it as it goes. There are sometimes people will, for example, they'll owe money to a friend or a relative. And for some people, they say, that debt is making me crazy and it just is changing our relationship. And I don't care what the terms of anything else is. I'm going to focus on that one and pay it off first. And then other people say, you know what, my friend or family member said, don't worry about it. I don't care if you ever pay it back. And then it goes at the bottom of the list.
Right.
So you can change this as you need to. But basically, the snowball is trying to, it's more of a psychological approach where you're trying to get some quick wins, get some of those small ones out, reduce the number of payments that you have going out. Whereas the avalanche method is more of a mathematical approach.
Right.
So we actually have a resource that we're going to show you today. And it is a website called undebt.it. So undebt it. I have already kind of preloaded this up with a smattering of the types of credit that some people have. So if you look down the list here, we have some credit cards like American Express and Capital One and Chase. We've got a furniture loan through Ashley. We have a car loan. We have a student loan. So what this program allows you to do is you go in and for each debt you have, and by the way, you're seeing the free version of this. There is a paid version as well, but I am cheap and I don't like to pay for things I don't have to pay for. And the free version is quite robust. So you go in and you enter in all this information. And I kind of did it ahead of time just because it didn't seem like it would be very interesting just to see those steps. It's very intuitive, very easy to do. You put in basically how much you owe, what your interest rate is, what your minimum payment is, and those kind of things. So if we take a look at this list, we see that we have 7 different debts on here, and it is listed alphabetically right now. But there are little, along the header there, if you click on, let's say, balance, it will start to show you that this is one way you can think about it from smallest to largest in terms of the size of the balance. But then you can see that the associated interest rates with it are not in the order that they would be if you did the avalanche method. So what if we click on that? You have to click on it twice, please. That would show us that instead of starting with the smallest one, which was the Best Buy, in the avalanche method, you would start with the one that has the largest interest rate on it, which is the Ashley. So what I want to do is, if we can go to the screen that shows the debt snowball, there's a lot going on this screen. So if we look across the very, very top where it lists that there's 7 accounts and it gives your monthly budget. Now, what I did was I figured out all the minimums that needed to be paid for each of these different debts. And then, Kyle, do you remember in the very first session where we talked about trying to find an area of waste in your budget? Well, this is one of the ways that you can use that amount. In this case, this person had found $300 of additional money that they were able to save from elsewhere in their budget that they could throw toward their debt. And that is listed there under the snowball amount. So we have the minimum payments of $1,224 for all of those debts. We have the $300 snowball payment, which gives us $1,524 to pay toward debt each month. Mm-hmm. So the way that the snowball works is that you pay minimums on all of your debts, and then that additional snowball amount gets thrown on the smallest debt. So in this case, the smallest debt is Best Buy. And you can see that if we start in May, well, by July, that one will be paid off, because instead of just paying the minimum amount, that $300 is getting added on there each time. Once that Best Buy is paid off, then you no longer are paying the minimum to Best Buy, and you're no longer paying that snowball amount to Best Buy. So now both of those things get now added on to the next smallest debt, which is the American Express. Mm-hmm. So we can see, if we look down the line here, if we keep doing that, that within just a year, so if we look down around April of 2027 there, we have already paid off 4 out of the 7 loans. So when I said that the snowball method is a psychological method, it has given me some quick wins. I am no longer sending payments to 7 different debts, even just 1 year into my snowball journey here. Mm-hmm. I'm only paying to those 3 larger ones. So that kind of helps people keep up the momentum, because when you were paying off your car, mm-hmm. Do you feel, or any of your other previous debts, do you feel like sometimes it's hard to keep up with it, or did you maintain motivation through the whole thing?
It was hard. Well, this last time it wasn't hard, but in the past, yes, it has been hard.
So I feel like the snowball method helps keep people seeing that they are making forward progress.
Yeah, I wish I didn't know about this tool back then. Maybe it didn't exist back then, but a lot of what I was feeling back then was just feeling overwhelmed with how much there was and not seeing the way out. This would have given me a good visualization to see the way out. So
I agree. Back when I was getting out of debt, I was kicking it old school in Excel, and had something similar to this, but much easier to just to plug these things in and try to figure it out myself. So if we scroll down, we can see that eventually by, what does it say there, November
2030.
Yeah, November 2030, that all those debts would be paid off. Okay, so that's one option, the debt snowball. Mm-hmm. So if we scroll up to the top and instead we choose the avalanche method, it puts things not in order of balance, but it puts things in order of interest rate. So like we said, that would be first Ashley Furniture, because that was 29% interest rate on that. But if we look around that same mark, around that April 2027, May 2027 area, we can see that a year in, we are still paying on 7 different debts. Yep. Now, we are making progress, but for some people, they feel like, I'm not really making a dent in this. It really is going too slow. You can see that it really takes till July 2027 for that very first Honda Finance one to get paid off. Mm-hmm. So if we scroll down a little bit, okay, so they start to drop off along the way, but even maybe 2 years in, we're still paying on 6 of the debts. Yep. So for this method, it works exactly the same as the snowball method, where once we finish, so basically in this one, we've been paying off on the Ashley Furniture the whole time. We've been putting the extra $300 on that. And then once that Ashley Furniture is paid off, we take what we were paying to Ashley and the snowball, and we put it on the other one. Now, the reason that Honda and one of the other ones finished before the Ashley did is just because they were smaller, and they just happened to end up, we paid through the whole thing at that point. But if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see even till the very end, we're still paying on 3 debts.
Yep.
Now, it's kind of silly because 2 of those debts are very small debts. They have very small payoff on a minimum amount on them, $15 and $12. Most people are just going to bang that out at some point and say, I'm sick of sending $12 checks. So when you're looking at this kind of debt payoff, you are in charge and you can make modifications as you want. So there's another thing.
Before you go on, I just want one quick comment. It looks like it takes about the same amount of time. The other was November 2030. This is October 2030, so it only saves you a month.
We're going to look at that next.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I'll shut up.
So if you scroll back up, I forgot to have you bookmark it, but we want to go to... Can you go to the one below where we are on the navigation on the left? No, the same one we're on, sorry. Yeah, and then go to compare methods.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, this is exactly what Kyle is talking about. The first 2 up there are the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. So,
and is the one red because that's the one we looked at last? Is that why it's red? Do you know?
Probably.
Okay.
Good question. So, if we take a look at this, you can see that by doing the debt avalanche, you actually come out a little bit ahead. You paid about $2,000 less in interest. You got out of debt 1 month earlier. But let's look at the users on this plan. So it says that typically of the people who are using Undead, 66% are using the snowball, whereas only 26,
yep.
25% are using the avalanche. So why is that?
I don't know.
Well, if we were only going by math, it would make sense to do that avalanche.
Right.
Because you get out of debt a little faster, you pay less debt. But it is been shown that the psychological aspect of getting out of debt is so much stronger and people have more success in that. So that is the reason why I think more people are doing the snowball. And in the end, if the best plan to get out of debt is the one that you can stick with.
Right.
And if you can stick with the snowball because you see these small wins at the beginning and you can stick with it, even though you end up paying a little bit more, you finish.
Okay.
Whereas with the other one. So there's lots of other things on here. This site is fabulous. I feel it's a little redundant in terms of when you look at different screens, there's lots of different places that have the same information. Okay. So you can kind of put in your information and look through and see which screen looks the best for you. But this is the resource that I wanted to show today because sometimes when people are in debt, they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. For me, when we were trying to get out of debt, I just thought, well, I'm just going to be in debt forever. I just didn't know how to do it. Yep. But when I laid it out in this kind of way, I could see that by X date, I was going to be out of debt. And that was a huge motivator for me.
Yeah, like I said before, I wish this was something that I had because I did feel overwhelmed by the debt. Whoop.
Sorry, Lou.
You okay, buddy? Sorry. But yeah, I wish I had something like this to see the way out. It would have been very helpful. The one thing I don't like about this, and this is just because I've never seen this before, one of the reasons I bookmarked this one page is that when you go to certain things, this toolbar on the left-hand side disappears. And I didn't immediately find a way to bring it back. So just for the ease of going back and forth between stuff. So just be careful of that as you're don't let that discourage you because it looks like a good tool. That and it's not in dark mode. I can't stand things that are in light mode. But there might be an option.
There might be a setting. I didn't think about that for you. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, if you click on the very top one where it says easy mode there, on the left.
On the left, got it.
That is kind of like a summary page. So if you scroll down, it shows all the debts and it shows the payoff plan and all that good stuff. Okay. So there's lots of different ways to look through it and you can edit your debts from any of the screens and go from there.
Ooh, YNAB sync.
Yes, that is a part of the paid version.
Okay.
Yes, but it does sync with YNAB.
I was looking to say there's a dark mode button.
No.
It's editing Kyle here. We're going to stop here and we're going to do a part 2 coming out in a couple days. And again, just like last time, once the second one drops, I will add a full-on version of this so that you can watch the full thing. And it'll also be in the playlist. Maybe I'll just do the playlist. I'm not sure yet. We'll make sure that you have access to the whole thing. So we'll see you in the next one. See ya.